McDaniel, one more. Clark.
Too much time.
Great defense, Arkansas. They take it away. McDaniel will end it in style.
I'm Corliss's mom. I never seen him in any other eye, but that's my baby. Same day as he was born, that's my baby. He's just my child. I don't see him any different than any other. I don't see him as a celebrity. He's just my child, my gift that God gave me. It makes me feel very good that you had a child that you knew when he was in third grade that he had a drive for basketball, that he had a love, and he always wanted to do something very special. And I always tell him that he could thank my brother, my baby brother. His name was Boyce Mitchell. He's not with us anymore. When Corliss was 3 months old, my brother gave him a basketball for Easter. And he had a picture and gave him a basketball. And because Corliss had long hands, he said, this boy gonna be a ball player one day. So I always give my brother credit for that.
The thing about it is, like, it didn't matter who it was, whether it was kids in my neighborhood or grown-ups or people at the high school. Everyone treated me like I was a normal person. They never really put me on a pedestal or allowed me an opportunity to have the big head or feel full of myself. And a lot of that goes back to my raising as well, but to have people around you who kept you grounded, treated you just like a regular person, that definitely helped nurture me, especially with my personality being shy and really not gravitating to the limelight early on. I think it definitely helped me a lot.
I always tell everybody he was a very meek child. He's always been very disciplined. And my mom used to keep him a lot for me when he was growing up. And I think one thing, the reason why he's so settled, she used to sit him on top of her kitchen table and in his little seat, and then she would turn the news on and she would say, now you watch the world news. And he would sit there and watch the news as a kid, and he was just always had a real mild-mannered kid, never said much. I mean, everything was precious and gentle. He was just a gentle kid. He was totally different than my other son, but he's always been quiet. And
at the 5th grade, maybe even the 4th, he was a head taller than most everybody, and he would do everything you asked him to do. And like I say, his uncle coached him during the season and did a tremendous job with him. And, I'd get a chance to work a few moves with him and things like that, what I teach my postmen to do. And I just felt like he was going to be a superstar.
His dad owned the cleaning service here in Russellville, and I've just known him ever since he was just a little chafer. My first impression was I was amazed at the things that he could do with his size. A lot of kids, when they're growing and they're as big as Corliss was, they're not near as coordinated. And tall kids, I always took a good interest in it because Coach Eddie Sutton always said, you can't coach tall. And he was right. That was one thing with Corliss. You knew that he could do a lot of things. He played a lot of basketball. Corliss was just a real good, hard-working kid, and he really loved basketball. He was a leader by working hard and encouraging. He encouraged all the kids. He was just so positive that he just didn't let negative stuff bother him. And he was coachable in that you suggest things or ask him to do stuff, and he could just do it. It's not like, a lot of kids, you have to take them step by step through most everything. And Corliss, we could just talk about stuff and he'd do it.
I think he was maybe about the 4th grade, 5th grade. He started developing and really growing. And I can remember when he turned 13, I think this is the funniest story. came to my room one day. He told my mother, he said, make my feet stop growing. And I said, I can't make your feet stop growing, because he turned 13 and he was wearing a size 13 shoe.
When he got to the 7th grade, I took the job at the high school, okay? And I was asked, why in the world would you want to leave when Corliss is coming there? And I said, well, my mama didn't raise on no dummy. He'll be in high school pretty soon, okay?
Watching the Cyclones play, whether it was junior high, when I was in junior high, or middle school, you know, I remember going to the basketball games. I tease my sons about this all the time, but at the end of the games, you know, we take those plastic Coca-Cola cups and ball them up and be out there shooting on the basket at the gym and trying to dunk when we got tall enough. So, you know, to finally have that opportunity to be a Cyclone, it meant a lot. You know, we knew we were representing our families, knew we were representing our neighborhood, knew we were representing the city of Russellville. And we took a lot of pride in that. I definitely took a lot of pride in that as well as an individual. And, you know, I always wanted to represent them well, whether it was playing basketball or whatever the case may be. You know, I was proud to be a Cyclone.
I was a student manager here when we first started hearing about Corliss. I was here from 86 to 90.
Corliss, you know, he was at the age where people were starting to notice him. The first publicity was breaking the backboard, you know, and
Probably 1987 or so, you start hearing about Corliss. You know, so he's 7th, 8th grade, you're hearing about him.
I never forget the day about the broken backboard. I was home in the kitchen cooking supper. One of his teammates, Tyrone Willis, he came knocking on my door, beating on the door. Betty, Betty, Betty. I go, what is it, Tyrone? He told me, Corliss broke the backboard. I go, what backboard? He say, the one at school today. I say, how did he break the backboard?
Steve Sullivan wanted to do an interview with him, and he came out and was interviewing. In the interview, he kind of halfway missed the dunk, and it shattered the backboard.
And my thought was, oh my God, how are you going to pay for this backboard? So I can't remember, one of the kids bought me some of the glass from the backboard in a bag, in a plastic bag, and gave it to me. So I still have the glass today. And I said, well, do we have to, I'm still concerned about, do we have to pay for it? So after I talked to Coach Daly, and they told me, oh no, Betty, you don't have that, you know. I think they were so amused about him breaking the backboard that, you know, wasn't. Then that later that evening on the news, I saw Steve Sullivan show, and he was showing the film clip where he had broken the backboard.
I hate to kind of tell you the secrets, but that was the time everybody was getting breakaways. Well, I love our athletic director. Paul Pugh was there, but he's the kind of guy that, as an athletic director, wanted to save money, and we bought some breakaway rims that don't break away. We tried to get them to, you know, check them out, and and so really, you know, he was the big guy that could go, and the junior high that could jump and grab the rim, and he grabbed the rim and he busted that backboard. My son and all his teammates got pieces of the board. It was something else.
It was a legend already in Arkansas, and he shattered that backboard and just all the hoopla that came with Corliss Williamson. And
in junior high, that's the only time, like the 9th grade year, that I saw him kind of slough off and kind of just go through the motions a little bit, because he was so dominant.
Right around my ninth grade year, I believe it was, when I kind of had a feel that I had an opportunity to be one of the better players in the state, as well as, you know, having a chance to put myself among the best in the nation. That summer, I had an opportunity to go play AAU basketball. I played at 3 different age levels, so I was able to play against my age group, and then all the way up to I think it was the 17 or 19-year-old team. And not that I had great success at it, but just seeing that I was able to hold my own and the experience I gained, I thought that it definitely helped me coming back home, is getting ready for high school and having that mindset that, you know, hey, I want to be one of the best, and I had the opportunity to do that if I continue to work.
So we are going through our schedule and playing, so we're invited to this real top-notch tournament called the Red River Shootout. There's teams from Memphis, there's teams from Longview, Texas, who's the #1 team in the state of Texas at that time.
we played Longview, Texas in the finals. And they had some football players that went and played professional football. And they were on this basketball team, and they had 10, 11 kids. All of them could dunk. I mean, any way you wanted it dunked.
They were about 6'3" to 6'6" jumping jacks that could play.
As we were warming up, of course, we had 4 postmen that could dunk pretty good, but we didn't dunk in warm-ups because it was a technical foul. But they let us in the Red River Shootout. And during the game, we're playing, and one of the Longview kids catches the ball, makes a move, and slams it. And he shouted out, "That's how you do it." And we went down to the other end, and of course we threw the ball to Corliss, which we always tried to do. And he took the ball, did a little spin move, and mashed it home.
Well, they did one thing, we hadn't talked about this, one thing I love for teams to do is to press us full court.
They full court pressed from the time we got off the bus until the last of the game. The guys they were just mugging him. I mean, all over him. And we're taking the ball out of bounds, and the kid wouldn't give us any space at all. And Corliss just kissed him on the cheek. And he jumped back. And of course, when he jumped back, gave us all the space that he wanted, took the ball and scored. But he would do stuff like that. And it was not. He never meant anything degrading about it or anything, but it served a purpose. But that was Corliss. He was a fun player to coach.
We had 2 great ball handling guards, but our postman Corliss was our best ball handling player. He could handle the ball as good as anybody, best we had.
We had the ball out of bounds, down 1, and they had the full court press on us, hard full court press on us, and Chris Harden took the ball out of bounds, threw it full length of the court. Corliss catches it, someplace around the top of the key.
Corliss catches. Now the guy's recovered, so now there's a big bang at the free throw line. Their man falls down, Corliss takes a dribble, lays it up, score. They are in shock. They're still like probably 5 seconds or more left in the game.
And then there was like 5 or 6 seconds left in the game, but it shocked them so bad, they didn't even take the ball out of bounds. They just let the clock run out.
The old ball was just rolling around. Doop, doop, doop. Buzzer goes off. We win another championship. And that's something to be around stuff like that. The King Cotton that year, Parkview was back because they won it. It was the first Arkansas team in all the history of the years to win the King Cotton. Was Parkview the year before we came. We were 7th and the Phila 8th. We were unknowns, I guess, a little bit. It ended up in the semifinals, Russellville and Parkview. And that's the only time we get to play them is like big tournaments or, state or whatever, And we beat them. They led us for most of the game, and we had a great ending with Corliss and Marcus putting on a little 2-on-2 show. They want to stay in the man-to-man. By golly, we're going to go with our 2 best. And we caught them and ended up winning by 8 or 9 points. Then we're going to face, the game before us was number 1, Philadelphia, and California, Notre Dame, Jason Kidd's bunch.
As we went to the tournament, it was all set up. I was going to wear a white sweater that it looked real nice, and I wore a black turtleneck that was going to be underneath it. And of course, during the games, most of the time, I wore necklaces and stuff like that. I put them on rather than put them in my pocket. And I had 2 or 3 of them around my neck. And when it came out on the film, of course, it looks like that I'm a priest. So I usually just tell people that we played Jason Kidd's team was a Catholic school, and they had their priest, and we had to have a priest on our team.
Jason Kidd had a remarkable game. They beat Roman Catholic. They were 4th seed, Notre Dame. So they won in overtime, that team did. And so we're facing that team in the finals. Number 4 and number 7 is in the finals. I know it came down to exciting one of those buzzer beaters, and we missed a free throw, a 1-and-1, or maybe it's a 2-shot one, but anyway, we could have kind of been in good shape. We missed the free throws. And they took the ball. Jason Kidd has it kicked out to him. He's going down the floor, and Corliss is flying down there. And Jason Kidd pulls up, shoot about a 16, 17-foot jumper, and Corliss blocks. I mean, it's a clean block. He got up there, looked like he was above that ball a foot.
At the end, I kept thinking, come on, Russellville, y'all can play better than this. Corliss and Marcus, Anthony, Jay Manning, I think Chris Harden was on that team. They were all in the huddle, and they were all just together talking. And I asked Corliss, he said, we were going to take charge of this game. So when they got the opportunity, and I think Russellville went down and scored, and Jason was coming down to get the shot, and Corliss came from behind him and knocked his ball out and blocked his ball. And then, of course, Russellville won the King Cotton Classic that year. So after then, I talked to Jason and his mom, and I said, how's Jason? She said, he's fine. She said, Jason still say he still have nightmares about Corliss coming behind him, blocking that shot. But that was a big highlight too. So those special games that you remember.
To have an opportunity to play in that and represent the state of Arkansas was a good feeling for me. It was a good feeling for our team, and to play on ESPN and to get the block and for us to win the game. I mean, it kind of sent a statement like, hey, we play basketball in Russellville, Arkansas. So
by the time he was in the 9th, 10th grade, everybody wanted him, and you knew that he was one of the best players in the country. Everyone there was talking about him. It was a big deal for people to go watch him play. The Russellville gym used to be packed in those days when Corliss played, because people came from all over. It wasn't just the Russellville locals that wanted to see him. It was people from Little Rock, and it was people from Conway, and it was people from Morrilton that, hey, Russellville's playing Northside tonight. This is a game we have to go see.
Yes, he was famous really before he came to the high school. He was known all over the state. We'd go to places like Rogers and play basketball. There was no room to sit. Southside, in their little old bitty gym, they had to close it down. There was people in the offices looking out the window, and the referees didn't have a place to run on the baseline. People were lined up all over. It was just an awesome experience to know that you had somebody like that. And of course, we had games that we went out to Tech and played and filled it. I mean, we filled the gym. They had to hire people to come in and be ushers so that they didn't fight over the seats. And it was a great time in basketball in Russellville.
I mean, it's like Beyonce, Sting, Elvis, Corliss. I mean, it was one name. You don't have to say Corliss Williamson. It was Corliss,
So by the time he got into high school, Corliss was already a household name across the state of Arkansas. But it was his nickname that would make him famous across the country.
Clarence Finley, who's my cousin. He's now the head coach at Little Rock Christian High School. He was the one that gave me the nickname when he was coaching me in the AAU. It was pretty much how he wanted me to play. He was like, you got to be big and nasty inside, and he'd just say that, come on, big nasty, you got to play hard. You got to, get some more rebounds. And my teammates picked up on it. And by the time I got to college and, Dick Vitale blurts it out on ESPN now, everyone knew me as Big Nasty. But, and for me, it kind of helped me. It gave me kind of an alter ego. So every time I stepped on the court, I wanted to become this different person than I was off the court.
They were practicing one day, and he was playing ball, and I think he went down and he dunked the ball, and then my cousin looked at him, Tom, that was nasty. He said, okay, Big Nasty. So he got the name Big Nasty from my cousin. It just wasn't something that he made up, but it was because of the dunk he made at the practice during AAU.
Early on, like in junior high, Corliss was a Georgetown fan. He wanted to play, always wanted to play for Thompson, which he was a great coach, and I could see where he wanted to play for him because that was kind of his style of game. And when Nolan got the job at Arkansas, that helped quite a bit of his decision going to Arkansas.
Growing up, and I can say this now, but, I was a Georgetown fan there for a long time. I remember watching John Thompson's teams, and Patrick Ewing and Reggie Williams and those guys. So I became enamored with them, and I always thought I was going to go to Georgetown until I finally had an opportunity to meet Coach Richardson when he came to Arkansas and the style of play that he was playing. So it was very intriguing for me to consider the University of Arkansas.
The first recruiting, I guess, had some contacts when he was maybe in the 10th grade.
You know, everyone always thought he would play for the Razorbacks. Now it's different. You never know what's going to happen. But with him, it was always like solid. You just always felt like he was going to play for the Razorbacks. And then, of course, Coach Richardson always made him a priority.
It really got heavy, but when he was in 11th grade, maybe, and he started getting letters, in the mail. I think it was Bobby Knight that flew down from Indiana to visit. It ended up being Indiana and Arkansas. That was and I was mighty afraid that he was going to go to Indiana. And I looked at him one day, I said, "Why do you want to go and play for Bobby Knight?" He said, "Mother, he's a disciplinarian."
And you talked about the recruiting process. I remember, several coaches coming to the gym, or, you look up and you see this coach under the basket while you're doing warm-ups just staring at you. And, I kind of thought that was funny at the time, but, it was just part of the process. And, to have someone like Bobby Knight come to your school, he was a legend in the coaching profession in college basketball. That was something very special.
I remember Coach Knight because I liked Coach Knight. I liked his style because he played a lot of good defense and stuff like that. But I don't remember all of it. But there was a lot of coaches.
The last person he talked to was Bobby Knight from Indiana. So 2:30, time for Corliss to come down to the gym, and he comes to the office and says, "Coach, I'm ready to announce who I want to play ball for." I said, "Okay." I said, "You don't have to tell me anything. Well, I'll get it set up." And he said, "Well, I want to tell you one thing." I said, "Okay." He said, Bobby Knight made my mind up who I wanted to play for. He said, Coach Knight said this. He said, "Corliss, you're an Arkansas grown boy. If you have any desire of playing for the Razorbacks, you need to go play there and play. But if you really don't want to, Indiana will be the best place for you."
I think Indiana got close, but I think ultimately for him, he wanted to be able to play in front of his family. At the time, his grandmother was still living, so her being in Little Rock, he wanted her to be able to come up and see some games. And I don't think people really realized when he wasn't in Russellville in the summertime, he spent quite a bit of time in Little Rock, and that was like his second home. So a lot of family, a lot of cousins and relatives there, so he wanted to be able to come here so they all get an opportunity to see him play.
And I remember Scott Edgar saying, "Z, you don't understand, this kid comes in, he just carries on what these guys are doing." We just went to the Final Four. I remember sitting in the offices in Barnhill Arena and talking to him. I remember one time that they were so excited he was coming through to see them. I think it was like also in the spring. I remember Coach Anderson and everyone, "Hey, let's make sure this is straightened up. Make sure the locker room's spotless. We got Corliss coming in." And one that time he was probably a sophomore, and so it was a big deal. They knew then how big of a thing it was to impress him and to get that kid excited about the Razorbacks. And
my grandfather, we had a long talk one day, and he was just like, "Hey, the best thing you could ever do is to stay at home. Your family loves you, they want to support you. The city of Russellville supports you. The state will definitely support you. And when basketball is over, you want to be able to come back home, be at home, and develop some type of legacy."
Well, we actually met before our senior years of high school, and had the opportunity to meet him in Jonesboro, Arkansas. That's back when the national tournament for AAU was being held in Jonesboro at Arkansas State. And got an opportunity to play against him, meet him, got a chance to meet his mom and dad. They actually beat us that day, but I had a pretty good individual game. And, his mom and dad came up to me after the game and were having conversations, asking me questions about if Arkansas was recruiting me or not. And I was like, yes. And of course, I just exchanged numbers. We stayed in contact throughout our high school year. And then when November came, when I was mulling over my decision of, where I was going to go to school, something just told me to pick up the phone and call him. And I called him and asked him what he was thinking. And he said, I'm thinking about going to Arkansas. And I said, I am too. And then he just kind of said out of the blue, well, if you go, I'm going to go. So we kind of made a pact on that particular day, and I guess the rest from that point is history. We did go out and try to call other players, people that we had played against that we wanted to play with. Michael Lloyd from Baltimore, who was a McDonald's All-American that year. He actually had signed to come to school here, but he didn't qualify that year, so he wound up going to San Jacinto Junior College, and I think he later went to play at Syracuse. Othello Harrington, who went to Georgetown, we recruited him as well. So we kind of did a lot of that type of stuff. We really didn't talk about, what we were going to accomplish here. I always felt that, having played in high school and not really having a dominant big guy, that if I was fortunate enough to play with one, that who knows what the ceiling could be.
When they came up here before their freshman year, that in the summer of '92, you got great players. 3 first-round draft picks just left. Todd Day, Oliver Miller, Lee Mayberry, 3 first-rounders. It may never happen in this school's history again. Hopefully it does, but it may not ever happen again. Those 3 are leaving. You're about to take a dip. You got to take a dip. And these guys come in. I remember being at basketball camp at Barnhill Arena, and you'd go out there and watch those pickup games. Those pickup games were unbelievable in Barnhill Arena. And Scotty just talking and backing it up and playing.
Now, I don't know if you all know this about Scotty. Scotty, I love you. But Scotty is very mouthy, but he is so much fun.
Growing up being the youngest of 4, I had 2 older brothers and an older sister, and I was always being tortured a little bit around the house, and then there was probably certain times where I wouldn't shut up and people wanted me to, but for me on the court, it was just all about being fun and trying to get my guys going, but at the same time, hopefully frustrate the other team. Definitely gonna talk some trash.
In Corliss, he just dominated, and they were playing against great players. Arkansas had built a top 5 program, and those guys, you're like, holy cow, these guys are really, really, really good. Scotty's 17 years old. Corliss 18 years old.
You think about when we came in as freshmen, you had Todd Day, Lee Mayberry, and that group leaving out. They left out, if I remember correctly, final season poll. I think AP, they were like number 9, Sports Illustrated, 8. And, you had all these different polls. USA Today, 8. And here we come in our freshman year after those guys, and we're ranked 49th. Now, fast forward Christmas time, I think we were ranked in the top 15. Because I remember going home for Christmas and everybody was bragging about how we were ranked and everything. After our freshman year, Corliss, he would always go home for like a week or so. So he went home, and when he came back, he came back with these twists in his head. A lot of kids wear twists now, but it wasn't as common back then. So he had these twists, and then he had an earring hanging with a cross in it. And everyone knows Coach Richardson despises earrings. And Corliss walked in the gym, and he had his earring, and he had his hair, and Coach lost. That's the first time I've ever seen Coach like really go after Corliss. Like, man, you cutting that. Like, that's got to be cut. I'll let you wear it this summer, but when school starts, you cutting that. And matter of fact, take that earring out. And Corliss was, taking it out. And I was like, man, I'm glad I don't have any holes in my ear and I'm not letting my hair grow. But that was probably the funnest moment. And then after Coach jumped him, we walk out of Bud Walton. We're both heading to our cars to go back to the apartment. And most kids nowadays getting jumped like that in front of their peers, they're going to feel some kind of way about it. And as Coach, we're walking out, Coach is going to his car, we're going to ours, and Corliss says, all right, Coach, have a great day. And I was like, man, this is some kind of dude right here. Like, most kids would have been like, man, I'm not talking to him right now. He's upset me, but he just waved at it, man. And I was like, man, you're crazy.
I think it was after we won the championship. We went to the Maui Classic and came back, and we talked Coach out of having practice, and he let us go, and it was New Year's Eve, so the guys were hanging out a little bit, and we came back, and I think it was Alabama who pretty much spanked us at night the next day in the game, and Coach Richardson came in there, and he didn't say anything to us. He just wrote 5:30 a.m. on the board. So we came in that next morning, and one of my teammates had a good quote. He said, that was the one time I almost thought about quitting. He ran us until we could hardly walk.
You know, we were fortunate enough to live together the whole time. You know, Corliss wasn't really big on the technical things of paying bills and stuff like that. So basically, he would just give me his money, you know, and just tell me take care of it. So when it came to utility bills or rent, like, I don't think he ever went into like the main office of the apartments. Like, that was always kind of my responsibility, and he just kind of got used to it.
Corliss Williamson was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. But Scotty Thurman was the best player on that team, averaged 17 points a game that year. Corliss was coming off an injury. Corliss came in mid-year, and the Razorbacks took off. They finished 22-9. They won the SEC West, and they battled North Carolina in a game that a lot of people feel like they should have won. North Carolina went on to win the national championship.
We always, you know, sitting around talking to his teammates, and hey, if we just had, you know, one big guy or two big guys to help us out, we could possibly win a national championship. And we went and signed Lee Wilson and Darnell Robinson the next year. So to come back the following season and then to watch us just grow as a team, you know, we got better each game as conference time came around. We got better and better, and you can just feel like this team had something special going.
I can remember Scotty's dad and his mom, and every time we won a game, it's like, oh, Lord, we're getting closer. And I thought, oh, I cannot believe this. And the night of the championship game, I was so nervous I couldn't eat. And we was there doing the game. It was going on. And Scotty's dad was sitting in front of us. And he looks behind, and his dad, I never forget Mr. Thurman looking behind. He said, look here, look here. And I go, what? He said, we finna win this thing. I said, no. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's 4 minutes and 31 seconds left on that clock. And they went on to play, and then I thought, oh, and then when we got behind, and then I thought, oh, it's over, it's no way. And then Scotty took that ball and shot it in the air, and I could not believe it. I was just very, very excited. I didn't know my emotion was going to run that high.
Gosh. Oh, I'm telling you what, it looked like on TV they were just pouring on the court. Bill Clinton was right in the middle of them all.
Of course, I was elated because, you know, having somebody at the university that you coached, it's a closer-knit. It's kind of like having a son that was going up there. So I felt a part of the team. And I think that's what all of Arkansas got to do, is to feel a part of the team.
But that was one of the most memorable nights of my life, is the night when we beat Duke, and to beat Grant Hill, Antonio Lane. Go Hogs.
When I made the shot, I really don't think I probably enjoyed it as much as I probably should have at 19. I think it was kind of one of those things where Coach Richardson had us so wound up, so hyped to prove to people that, you know, we were one of the best teams in the country. You know, to prove ourselves each and every night, to come out and, you know, show that we were one of the best. And for me, once we made the shot, for me, it was just really confirming all those things that he had taught, and all the things that I grew up, you know, wanting to prove that I was a good player, you know, growing up in a small town and wanting to have an opportunity to be able to prove that on a big stage. So I don't think I really enjoyed it as much during the time when it happened. Like, even after the game, when the horn went off, if you look at the footage, there's really none of me running around, pumping my fist or doing anything. I was happy, I was smiling, you know, I was looking for my parents in the stands, but I really wasn't as jovial as you saw Corliss on the tape, pumping his fist, Corey Beck and those guys. And it's crazy because Corliss said something to me after the game. He's like, are you not happy? Like, you don't seem happy. I'm like, I'm happy. But to me, it was more of a situation where I felt like we did what we were supposed to do. You know, I didn't really think that we had shocked the world, so to speak. I really felt like we had prepared for that moment, and we went out and seized it when the opportunity presented itself.
That's something that'll always stay with the Razorbacks. And hopefully 20 years from now, we're not still having to talk about it all the time, because hopefully we've won a couple national championships in basketball and one in football and 3 in baseball and all that. That's what you hope. But, you know, but until that happens, that team did it. And he was the best player on that team. You know, I mean, I was probably one of the happiest days of my life. And we come back in the hotel, and
there's like thousands of people in the lobby that we've got to kind of get through in order to get to our rooms. And then after leaving Charlotte, coming back here, we land at Drake. There's like 3,000 fans there, and we've got to navigate through those people. And that's when I was really like, okay, Arkansas fans are really crazy. You know, I got a chance to see that for myself firsthand. And then just leading up to that, you know, going to the White House, everywhere we go, people want a piece of you. You know, it's kind of like we were rock stars in college. And, you know, it's something that I haven't had the opportunity to relive since, if you think about it. I mean, we've had some great moments here, but none like that.
But the 94 national championship, no one can claim that. That happened here on the court in Charlotte, North Carolina for the world to see, and they won the national championship, and no one can ever take that. The best player on that team was Corliss Williamson. He was a first-team All-American, and Corliss Williamson was the most outstanding player of the Final Four. And, you know, hopefully in a few years we'll win a football national championship or a baseball national championship this year or whatever, and they'll have a great player, and he's a, you know, and you can start arguing. But to me, I think he's the greatest Razorback of all time because what his team achieved on the court.
To be a Razorback meant a lot of pride to me. Like I said, I had an opportunity to represent my family, I had an opportunity to represent the community I grew up in and the state that I grew up in. So as an Arkansan, you know, that's our pro team, the Razorbacks, you know, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be. So having a chance to be a kid that grew up in Arkansas and represent, you know, the state and the University of Arkansas, that's all I can say is it meant a lot of pride.
When the Razorbacks were kind of known as 40 minutes of hell, they may have done that on defense, but they made sure Corliss touched the ball on offense most every time before they jacked a three. I mean, he was that kind of a player. You don't just, you know. And so, man, just getting to watch him for 3 years. I mean, you know, he signed or went on and left early, but he had some great years.
Obviously, he was a post player and, you know, was taking a lot of punishment every night. And I think he just got to the point where he felt like if he was going to have to get beat up every night, he may as well be compensated for it. And I respected him for it, you know. It was a little different because from the moment he made his decision, you know, we went from being roommates to now he's gone a lot. So that was different for me. But I really never planned it on like actually making a decision to leave. It was kind of like presented to me that, hey, you're going to be a first-round pick. These are the teams that we've talked to. And then at that point, it was kind of like, okay, if I'm going to be a first-round pick, I guess it is time for me to go. Unfortunately for me, that didn't happen. You know, our lives went kind of separate. You know, he played in the NBA. I was fortunate enough to play overseas. We had 2 different careers, but regardless of whether I was in Greece or if I was in Yugoslavia, he was in Sacramento, he was in Toronto, our relationship never changed.
He came back after the rookie season at Sacramento, or maybe it was the second year, one of those 2 years. He brought Mitch Richmond with him. Met Derek Fisher came. He called me up. He said, "Coach, do you think I can get in the gym this evening?" And I said, "Well, sure. What are you going to do?" He said, "Well, I got a few friends of mine coming." "Oh, sure." He said, "Well, I'll see you about 6:30. Okay, you know, or whatever." He came in his Nasty 1 car. He had 2. He had Nasty 1 and Nasty 2. One here in Little Arkansas and one in California. Big old black. I mean, it was beautiful. But anyway, I sat up there. He said, "Coach, just kind of, if you'll be just turn it on about 15 minutes. The horn will go off and we'll rest. And we'll get it and come back. Do that about 4 times and we'll go home. Let you go home." I said, "You can stay as long as you want to." So anyway, they, right here in this gym, baby.
You know, I always liked him because he was so humble. You know, he was never, you know, you never could talk to Corliss and he'd brag about what he did.
You don't hear anybody say anything bad. You know, you don't ever meet the guy over here that says, Corliss was didn't like he was a bad person or he was a smart aleck or didn't treat people right. You just don't hear anybody say bad stuff about him. You know, we all have people that are our detractors that don't like us or don't like how we talk or how we do this or that. You just don't meet very many people.
We had a Corliss Williamson day. Russellville was Corlissville for one day.
It was funny. It was kind of, it wasn't funny. It was like, okay, everybody was going Corliss, 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 but I never looked at it as being as special as it was, I just think like, okay, this is something they wanted to do. But as a matter of fact, I have a copy of that proclamation that the day they named it Corlissville. And he could not believe it, and I didn't either, but it was, and we love and appreciate Russellville because they've been very kind and very good, yeah, to our family, yes.
I got to speak, and mayor, I guess, and everybody, and proclaiming it, and I think he's more embarrassed than anybody, but hey, he's that kind of guy. He got up and spoke too. He thanked the teachers and coaches. He said that I was really the only coach that would not let him goof off. That he knew that I meant business. Best thing I ever heard in my life, for him to say that.
And as a coach, you always like to see things like that. And that was remembering that he was from Russellville and that he remembered, it's always been good that he looks at Russellville as being his hometown and he's proud of it.
Well, I remember that when they did the Corlissville for, I think, a day or whatever, Russellville was named that in honor of him. That's awesome that they changed the name of the town for a day. I remember when I was coaching at Dardanelle High School, it seemed like every year, July, August timeframe, there'd always be a big festival or something out at the park, and everyone would come, and Corliss was usually there. And it was a big deal that he was going to be there. It was something that they would talk about a month in advance. And Corliss is coming, Corliss will be at Valley Fest, and everybody went out there, and you just hope to see him and maybe get up there and shake his hand and give him a hug, and it was just a line of people. And it was like, the governor, honestly, whoever the governor was at that time, the governor couldn't come there and have people standing in line to see him. A U.S. senator from Arkansas couldn't go there and have that kind of demand to see him. Only a sports figure as beloved as Corliss Williamson could get that and have people just, trying to get to him and to talk to him and shake his hand and tell him that they know his uncle or, I'm friends with your brother or I knew your cousin or, whatever.
It was a family-based community. I just remember growing up in my neighborhood. My uncle lived next door. My grandmother lived around the corner along with a bunch of cousins. So, anytime I think of growing up in Russellville, I just think of family and friends. For me, it was a great time in my life. I kind of wish my kids had that experience, but it definitely helped me become the person I am today.
Quite a bit. Spent a lot of time, in Russellville. It's crazy because I've always considered Russellville, and I'm from Ruston, so it's kind of very similar in terms of, both towns, being small towns, close environments, family oriented places. And I think that was the biggest thing I got from it, was being able to come down and hang out with all of his friends and family, getting a chance to meet his uncles, which, for me, they've become my uncles now. So having a chance to kind of have some extended family, I think for me, that was big for me while I was playing here. And, ultimately, it's still part of my family today.
He always tried to help people. He always tried to do stuff back in Russellville. He always tried to do stuff back at the University of Arkansas.
And he said he always wanted, if he ever made it, he always wanted to build something in Russellville that where the kids wouldn't have to, where they have a place where they can go and play organized sports and have some place to go. Because there was the Hughes Center, but it wasn't on that level. So they had started the Boys and Girls Club in the little building up by the post office in Russellville, little bitty little hole there. And when they decided to start their fundraising to build, and Corliss found out about it, that's when he decided to step up and make that pledge that he would do that, and Russellville match what he offered, yes. So that was his passion. He wanted to make sure that the kids in Russellville have some place to go. And they told him, well, Corliss, you can name it after you. He said, no, he named it after my father-in-law because he said his grandpa was his rock. Mm-hmm.
Probably the most generous, genuine, and caring person I know. I mean, anytime I ever need him for anything, pick up the phone and call. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be, a request for anything, it can just be, hey man, I got a buddy that's going to be in Sacramento and wants to come to a game. You mind helping with 2 tickets? Done. Hey, I got another friend. You're in Orlando now. They live in Tampa. They're coming over for the game. They want to take a picture with you. Would you mind doing that? Done. Like me, I'm going out tomorrow actually to go see him. You know, hey, can I come out and sit in some staff meetings, watch some workouts? Done. I mean, that's just who he is. He's just a guy that gives of himself, you know, cares about people, and is probably the most unselfish guy I know. Big, strong, physical, mean, on the court anyway, not off. Mean, tough, focused, driven, great hands, great feet, great touch around the basket, and a warrior. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want somebody to go to war with, he's the guy.
There's the man. There's his jersey. Corliss. Boy, what a deal.
I definitely would love to be a head coach again someday. I don't know what level. I really enjoyed coaching college basketball. I really enjoyed that level because you still have an opportunity to really mentor to the guys off the court and help them continue to grow to be young men. But you know, here in the NBA, it has its pros and cons. You know, it's all basketball, so you don't have to worry about the academic side. But then again, it's less time that you have at home. So it depends on what God has in store for me. I mean, if He wants me to be in the NBA or college, I'll follow His will, and hopefully one day we'll see what happens.